welcome back. Today's episode is all about self-sabotage and why it's actually a good thing. Before I get started with that, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about my coaching journey with my coach, Chris. He has been amazing. His name is Lion in the Stars on Instagram, if you're interested. And he's really been helping me work through a lot. But the main things we've been focused on since I met him are balancing my masculine and my feminine. And so I'm trying to be really intentional with the story I tell myself, because when we keep saying things, we are creating that story for ourselves. We can trick ourselves into believing something and continue to live that cycle. So I'm really working on changing the way I see my life and the story I tell myself, and I would recommend you do the same. How often do you find yourself telling the same story over and over again? Well, the goal with me is really trying to rewrite that story, because we don't always believe it, and a lot of people believe in manifesting and affirmations, but that goes hand in hand with words or spells. So when we continue to say we're this, we're that, it's true. Whatever you say you are, it's true. So me continuously saying, oh, I'm in a wounded masculine state, that will continue to be true. So I just want to point that out, that I am rewriting that story and I am no longer operating in that state of being. But just for some insight on my path, I want to talk about it today, because it is something that I've struggled with in the past. And if I've struggled with it, I know other people have also struggled with it. So obviously we both have masculine and feminine energies, but there are divine masculine, divine feminine, and there are wounded masculine, wounded feminine. So wounded masculine is the need to control and is more of like angry, like wanting to fight instead of like choosing peace. Whereas a healthy masculine is assertive, but in a very grounded way. And the wounded feminine, of course, is jealous, needy, clingy. A nurturing feminine is creative. A healthy feminine is creative, nurturing, open-hearted, and gentle. And so, yes, we both have both energies, but the story I used to tell myself was that I wanted to control the situation. So I would show up in a masculine. I was never afraid. If I liked a guy, I would ask him out or tell him or make the move, whatever. But most men, and this isn't every man, but most men want to approach the woman. They want to do the courting. And we both, sometimes I have attracted men that are more in their feminine, but Chris brought to my attention that is an imbalance on both of our parts. And we attract each other because we are both wounded in the opposite departments. So I find it really funny, and I had a call with him yesterday and we kind of were talking about it and some of the things he assigned me to do, especially this weekend, which is why I'm all dressed up, is because I am taking myself on a fancy date tonight with myself somewhere nice. The reason I am doing that is because he asked me to do this a long time ago. So he asked me to do two things. He told me to take myself out on a date, which I do all the time, but not in the way that I thought. And the second thing he told me to was to buy myself flowers. So this is where it gets funny, and every time I think about it, it makes me smile. And let's go ahead and just laugh together because, so I was telling him, I was like, I take myself out to eat all the time. And he's like, okay, so when was the last time you did it? And I was like, I did it last weekend for breakfast. He's like, okay, well, what were you wearing? He's like, were you cute? Were you dressed cute? I was like, yeah, I was wearing workout clothes, but they were super cute. And then he was like asking me about flowers. I was like, well, see, I haven't bought myself flowers, but I did buy myself a cactus, and I named him Mr. Cactus. And so at the end of the call, he was like, hold on, I'm still processing this. He's like, so you took yourself out to dinner in workout clothes, or to breakfast in workout clothes, and you bought yourself a cactus. He's like, do you kind of see where that's a little bit masculine? And we both just started laughing because he's so right, and it didn't register that growing up I never really was that into flowers. I was the type of girl that was like, oh, buy me chocolates instead. Flowers die so quickly, and all these things. And it was just really, really funny observation that I had no idea. I literally had no idea that I named my cactus Mr. Cactus. Like, why? what is that? So he challenged me. So tonight he was like, dress up like you are going on a hot date with the man of your dreams, and, you know, buy yourself some flowers, bring it to the restaurant. So challenge accepted. That is exactly what I'm gonna do. But it just killed me, because what female do you know that buys a cactus for herself? Like, I don't ever buy myself flowers. Like, oh, but here's a cactus, like named Mr. Cactus. Oh my God, it killed me. It's just all these things. And anyways, so I just wanted to bring that up, that whenever we're feeling like we're craving intimacy or craving companionship, that is our inner child begging us to love it and to pay attention to what it's saying. And, you know, I was explaining to Chris that, you know, it's just the intimacy and the connection and that I miss. It's like I'm happy with my life overall, but you know, that's always felt like it was something missing my whole life. And he was just like, you know, as hard as it might be, that is the times where you love yourself. Take yourself to dinner, buy yourself flowers, you know, take a hot bath. Because I told him I take a hot bath every night. He's like, that's more of a routine. He's like, make this a sacred bath. Light a candle, put some salts, like make it intimate. And he's like, not even intimate in a sexual way, but really pour into yourself. And so, you know, I'm trying out all these new things, and I have never bought myself flowers. Not once, just because in my eyes, you know, they always die. But he's like, Logan, flowers are the embodiment of the divine feminine. And I just find it really funny that how resistant you are to flowers. And it's all very funny, but it's like, you know what? It's a part of my journey. And so I just wanted to share that with you before I get into the whole topic on self-sabotage. But so self-sabotage is something that people find shame around. People a lot of times are like, man, like whenever something good happens, I self-sabotage, or, you know, I mess it up, or we have so much shame and judgment towards ourselves. But what I realized lately is, like, have you ever stopped to wonder why you're self-sabotaging? And like, maybe there's a deeper meaning, and maybe that it's not a negative thing. And maybe, just maybe, your higher self or your inner child is begging you not to do something. But we ignore it because, you know, we have desires, we have programming, and we have beliefs that we are supposed to do things a certain way. So sometimes we don't listen to ourselves. An old story I used to tell myself that I'm just calling out there, universe, I am no longer living, of course. I only attract men that are healing and that are going over a breakup or going through a breakup. And I actually had a circumstance pretty recently that kind of still showed me that that was the case. And I want to acknowledge that I am aware of it, and I am no longer attracting that energy into my life. I am only sharing this because I think it's essential for other people to hear in case they are living through the same thing. In my past, I had manifested and attracted men that were either going through a breakup, that were rediscovering themselves, and that were in my life for a very short amount of time, basically like a rebound. Taught me a lot about myself. I had a lot of heartbreak, I had a lot of shame, but I'm really grateful. And one thing my coach also said was, the conversation hits differently when you're at the table with the high priestess. So if you're not familiar with the high priestess in tarot is the most intuitive card in the deck. She is the divine feminine. She has so much healing energy. So they say that the dark is attracted to the light, of course. So all the people that have come into my life, I'm not by any means saying that they're bad people or dark people. They were wounded, and they saw something in me as a healer before I even knew I was a healer, and they would flock to me, only for me to give away all of my energy to help them heal in hopes that they would stick around and love me because of my wound, from my wound that is no longer mine. And that was never mine to begin with, but it's through generational trauma from our parents to our grandparents to our great-grandparents and all the way up the chain. And let's just go ahead and establish the fact that it is no one's fault. It is not your parents' fault, your grandparents' fault, or anyone's fault that you're that way. It is just a part of life, and it is why we are healed. This is why we are here, to heal that and to move through it. And so that was a part of my story for the longest time. And the universe will send you tests to see if you've really overcome it. And I had a test pretty recently about that. And luckily, nothing serious happened. It was very quick, but it showed me what parts of myself are still needing to be healed. And instead of judging that or being upset with myself, I felt proud. I felt happy. I felt like, okay, I get it. I see the message clear, and I'm gonna set boundaries. So, instead of being a doormat like I usually am, I enforce boundaries, and I'm able to recognize that. And sometimes it takes a little bit longer, but what I'm noticing is that usually I feel it in my solar plexus, which is right at like the stomach area. It's like that feeling when you have like butterflies in your stomach. And that butterflies are unfortunately not always a good thing. It's usually an indication that something is heavy. And so a lot of times the butterflies can come from excitement, but it can also feel like anxiety. Have you ever noticed that sometimes excitement feels like anxiety because the body is overwhelmed? Well, that's like an imbalance. That's like an indication that something is wrong, because I truly believe that when you find the person that's meant for you, you feel calm and you feel just very clear. And it's not, there'll be excitement, don't get me wrong, but there's a certain level. And have you ever just pay attention to the way that your body reacts to another person and their energy? But then there's that part of you that longs for connection, and maybe that person is really attractive, or, checks off some of the, marks on your list, and you just kind of put your intuition to the side because you have trouble trusting yourself from past experiences. So you're like, oh, no, that's not true. What I'm thinking is, that's just me trying to self-sabotage, or that's just my ego, but it's like, is it? Like, learning to trust yourself is huge, and that's something that I'm currently working on doing, is trusting myself, and I'm getting so much better at it just through these experiences and recognizing how it feels when something that is not aligned comes in my life. And so anyways, I just recently went through that, and what I've noticed is whenever I am entering a relationship that doesn't serve me, at first it's awesome. There's attraction, there's connection, chemistry, all of that stuff that we want at the beginning of a relationship. But then very quickly I feel it so heavily that there's an energetic shift. There's like a huge shift in an energy change from the other person. And I can always feel it. I think I feel it before the other person is fully aware of what's happening. I can feel the end of a relationship before it even happens. And I've always been right. And so what I'm realizing is that when that happens, is that in the past, instead of just letting it go, I've tried to control the situation in my wounded masculine energy. So I would go above and beyond and do things and serve things, like I would meal prep for somebody like heavily, and I wouldn't do it for myself. Or I just spent all my time and energy cooking for this person that I had known less than a month, just so they wouldn't leave. And then what did I have for dinner? Nothing. Like that sort of situation. I would give with an empty cup until there was nothing. And then when the person left, which they would, I would be left distraught and just like, why is this happening to me? What am I doing wrong? I've given so much. And of course, don't get me wrong, everything I do in my heart to my awareness is with love and light, always. But there are parts of ourselves that we don't know that are operating out of fear, because we are so good at lying to ourselves. That there's been times where I thought I was acting out of love, that I was acting out of fear. And although that person might not physically understand it, the energy is felt, and it is a repellent, because they're like, why is this person giving so much to me? I don't give, it's been give. And it's been very rare that I've actually had a relationship in years that I've actually received. Now, I won't say ever. I've had some really great relationships, but I just mean at least the past year or two, it's been like this. And so whenever my shadow qualities come out, and whenever I am starting to feel jealousy, or starting to feel insecure or needy or clingy, or like I'm just like putting in so much and getting nothing in return, and we call that self-sabotage, that is when I need to step back and be like, wow, what is my inner child trying to tell me right now? What is my inner child trying to save me from that I've been ignoring and blocking out? And if you think about it and you reflect on the relationship and everything that's happened, you'll start to see, all the red flags and the ways that you handled it wrong. When really what you're supposed to do is, have a mature conversation, set those boundaries, and if the person isn't able to accommodate to your needs, you politely let it go and just accept that the relationship is no longer a match. And that happens. But the more you hold on and resist something that is wanting to let go, the longer or the harder the pain is, the harder your heart will hurt, the harder the breakup is, because not only do you feel abandoned from the person, but you feel like you abandon yourself, and you start to blame yourself for giving too much, when as spiritual beings and light workers, we're supposed to give, but not at the expense of our own happiness. You're supposed to give and you're supposed to receive. It's equal, it's balance, it's yin, it's yang. And it's just been so huge for me to literally like step out and like see myself the however many times I've done this, and how many stories or how long I've been telling myself that I only attract that. Because the choice is up to me. Any day I can rewrite that story. Well, I'm here to tell you that story is being rewritten as we speak, and I can sense it, I can detect it. And it might take a second, I might not recognize it at first, but I promise you, next time a healing, wounded masculine comes into my life, I'll spot it, I'll catch it, and as a kind, polite human, I will do my best to help, but I will no longer invest my time and energy into building a relationship. Now, of course, my heart is always open to help people, so if anybody ever needed my help, I'm not going to reject that, because that's not the person I am. But will I do it at the expense of my own health and my own happiness and my own well-being? Fuck no. And the point of this message is, when you find yourself doing what feels like self-sabotage, take a step back and look at the bigger picture and ask yourself, why are you self-sabotaging? What is it that your inner child is trying to tell you that you were ignoring? Sit with that and then take the action. And Chris told me that love is a program and a misconception. True love is divine, but the love that we live in today is, he said, Shakespeare wrote it to sell tickets. And when he told me that, it kind of broke my heart, because I love love. But he had a really beautiful point, and that was that love is choosing the person over and over again. Despite their shadows, despite their demons, despite anything, you choose that person and you ride or die with that person no matter what. But that you will never get that until you love yourself. And you can't lie. You can lie to a person for a little bit, but you can't lie to yourself, and it'll always come back. That's why a lot of people end up in unhappy relationships, unhappy jobs, unhappy everything, because they haven't poured into themselves enough to attract the same vibrational frequency. So, we're not perfect, and I'm on that same journey. So if you're watching this and this resonates, just know I feel you, and we're working through this together. And that's the reason that it's so important to be open and vulnerable about your journey and talk about it, because you never know who else you could be helping. And so I challenge you, next time you find yourself, quote unquote, self-sabotaging, take a step back and reflect and look at what is it that you are lying to yourself about, and what is it that you are not seeing clearly about the situation, and how do you move through it. So thank you so much for watching. Happy Friday, and just know that I love you so much and that you got this.